One of the events I was at 2 weeks ago, someone goes, "Hey, so what do you wake up in the morning for? What gets you excited? What's your purpose and mission and all that stuff?" And besides my nonprofit, which I shared with you, right, helping these veterans, right, teaching a million veterans how to sell. The sort of flip side, on the other side, the commercial side, is ending the abuse of salespeople. If I can do that, I will have done something great.
This podcast is brought to you by Fast Slow Motion, a team of expert consultants that have helped thousands of growing businesses build scalable systems on the HubSpot and Salesforce platforms. To learn more, visit www.fastslowmotion.com. Hello and welcome to the Fast Slow Motion podcast, where we teach you how to build a business you love while enjoying your life. My name is Eric Housh. I'll be hosting today. And very special guest, Fast Slow Motion's strategic client director, Michael Johnson. MJ, good to see you today, man.
Good to see you. It's good to be very special.
And we've got a special guest. Steve Heroux is with us. Steve's the founder of the Sales Collective and author of the Sales Contrarian. At the Sales Collective, Steve and his team work with organizations to improve how they build, enable, and support their sales teams, including recruiting, onboarding, training, and coaching. And in the Sales Contrarian, Steve challenges traditional sales practices and offers a modern perspective on how sales leaders and teams think about performance, leadership, and growth. So today, we're going to explore what's not working in modern sales, why it matters so much to business owners and leaders, and how to build sales organizations that support sustainable growth instead of constant stress. Steve, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thanks, man. Good to see you, man.
Well, I'm really interested in your brain today, your knowledge, your experience in the sales world. And so I want to start off at a high level, Steve. When you talk to founders or you see a company, founder, CEO is frustrated about their sales results, maybe confused a little bit. What do you think is the most often misaligned in in how sales is being approached for them?
If I have one, I preferably would just hold up a mirror and go, "Here's the problem." But usually I don't have one. So I have to really do some deeper discovery and learning about what's causing the problem. One of the events I was at 2 weeks ago, someone goes, "Hey, so what do you wake up in the morning for? What gets you excited? What's your purpose and mission and all that stuff?" And besides my nonprofit, which I shared with you, right, helping these veterans, right, teaching a million veterans how to sell. The sort of flip side, on the other side, the commercial side, is ending the abuse of salespeople. If I can do that, I will have done something great.
I love it. You're singing to the choir over here, Steve, for sure. Let's talk about the Sales Collective because it's fascinating. Obviously, you helping sales teams kind of bridge these gaps. What were you seeing out there from founders and exec teams that really pushed you to build the Sales Collective and offer that service to your customers out there?
Yeah, I had originally started it wanting to just be like a training company, and as you guys know, there are 50 million and one sales training companies out there, right? Who have their magic selling methodologies that predate moon landing, right? As if that works. And what we found was the training is almost like third, fourth, or fifth. And what I saw was, we go to football for a second. And yes, the Patriots lost. I get it, but whatever. You never see more people take pleasure out of someone losing, right, than me and my, Patriots pandemonium. And yes, we lost. I get it. But even the Patriots and the Seahawks and Sam Darnold is incredible. They have playbooks. The coach doesn't just arbitrarily assign them how many yards they're supposed to throw for today based on last year's game. That's not how they do it. So we saw an incomprehensible amount of companies with no sales process defined, no playbooks to practice, no updated verbiage, language discovery sequences. Like, they don't even exist. And so we're like, well, this is why your salespeople don't do well. You're out here in the locker room going, "Hey, just like go long or something and like score a lot. Okay, that doesn't work. So we sort of transformed to now the thing we do the most, right, is build or rebuild sales processes. And so without that, how do you even know who to recruit? Right? If I don't know, I've got to know the selling motion. Do we need a hunter? Do we need a farmer? Do we need a biz dev guy? Do we need an SDR? So it's hard to know that. And you can't just train people arbitrarily on getting better at football. That type of training doesn't work. So that's kind of how it all started.
Yeah, I love that. And, you detailed that really well in the book, The Sales Contrarian, which I would recommend anybody listening. If you really care about improving sales, the right sales, not even methodology, just mindset. And in that book, you challenge a lot of kind of long held assumptions about sales. And you just talked about one, how the outcomes matter the most. And we can just take last year's outcome and just throw 10% on top of it, and you'll hit it by magic. Or there's special techniques and tricks to paths to success. There's like a recipe you can just mix up and make a magic salesperson. I think my favorite is that maybe salespeople, maybe they shouldn't be treated like mushrooms, And I love that chapter. I love the analogy there. So which beliefs, Steve, do you see owners and leaders holding on to that quietly work against their growth?
Eric, by the way, do you know the mushroom analogy? Because
I would love, just for the sake of the podcast, for you to unpack it for us.
I forgot about that one. That's right. In my opinion, again, most salespeople are treated like mushrooms, right? They're kept in the dark and they're fed, you know what.
Yeah.
So a lot of salespeople, they have no concept, right, of any of the real numbers related to what they're selling. They don't know where the cups came from. They don't know what they're made out of. They don't know the cost to build the cup. They don't know the margin they should be like. They don't know any of this. And so they're just told, go sell a lot of coffee cups. And so again, if you don't involve your salespeople in the process of the business, how could they take ownership in it? So that's one thing I think is like really super crucial. And Michael, your second point you wanted me to elaborate on, which one was it?
Go ahead. Well, which beliefs, so you speak with business owners and leaders all the time. What do you see them holding on to that's actually preventing them from growing?
It probably is that arbitrarily assigning some magic number is the thing that's going to get them to produce that magic number. We all saw the Olympics, the figure skating. If anyone saw the quad god, okay, this kid, talk about pressure, right? Like heaps and heaps of pressure on winning gold, heaps and heaps of pressure on an outcome. And guess what happened, right? This poor kid, although he's handling it really well, he just crumbled. Then you have Alyssa Liu, no expectation, no nothing, right? And she said this when she won gold in a flawless performance. She goes, I don't care about medals. I'm just going to show my art to the world, and whatever happens. And she skated the program of her life. Like, that's what it's about. And that is what's killing these companies, because they don't have salespeople like Alyssa Liu, and they don't have salespeople like Eileen Gu, who also was incredible. They just go out and execute the best they can. And if someone out skis or out swims them, then so be it. But this is destroying companies because they are so attached to these ridiculous numbers. A company could have some idiotic goal of 500 million. They could do 499,837,000 and go, boy, well, we didn't hit our goal.
Yeah.
Like this.
Yeah. No,
that is what could happen. So that's the belief that, listen, we can't change a lot of people. So we just look for the clients that already understand this or that are willing and open, right, to thinking differently, which I guess is really good for us, that we don't have to take on clients that don't share and align with our values.
Yeah. One thing I've heard you say, Steve, that I always thought was really insightful, keeping with the Olympics, is that, there's like 10,000 Olympians. They come to compete and try to get a gold medal.
Yeah.
And they only give away 300 to 350 of those. Yeah. And so it can't be the outcome that drives success, right?
And this year for everybody, right, in Milan, so roughly 2,500-ish, right, competed for 116 medals.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't all win gold, but they all want to win gold, right? So it's like, what is the determining factor between winning gold and not?
For sure. Steve, circling back, because a lot of owners just get frustrated with this. They want sales to be predictable. They buy the tools, they buy the processes, they invest in the people. They want to know what that number is going to be.
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
Childhood.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Unpack that.
Like this country, at least, right, is just obsessed with outcomes. And this is why some of y'all, listen, I don't have kids. I can't ever tell anybody how to parent or any of that stuff, right? But the giving away participation trophies thing, okay, that's not helping. You don't get a trophy for 11th place. Like, that's not helping. And the way that kids are taught about grades, like you guys know this, Michael, you know, you have kids. I don't know, Eric, if you do, but like if there are kids who are smart and kids who are not, and that's just how it is. And some kids can get A's, and some kids, no matter how hard they try, can't get an A, right? They could get a B. So instead of rewarding the child, right, for putting in the effort and the work and the homework, they only look at the outcome. So your kid did her or his best, and now you tell them you're a loser. That's not good for kids. And so they get obsessed with, if I don't win, if I don't get an A, if I don't medal, if I don't get a ribbon, it really hurts them down the line. And that's why I'm such a believer, in Stoic philosophy. And I just wish that was the stuff, that kids were taught. But parents could teach their kids anything they want.
Yeah, I love that, because what you're essentially saying is that focusing on that outcome doesn't necessitate the right process.
No.
And long term, the right process is what you need to build a successful, scaling sales organization.
Yes.
Is the process. It doesn't focus on outcomes, doesn't develop skills. It doesn't build good habits.
No.
It lets you hit this month's numbers, this year's numbers, and who cares about next year? And so that's not the recipe for success.
It's all it is, man. And Kobe believed it. Bill Walsh believed it. Belichick believed it. Oh, John Wooden, what does he know?
Yeah.
Only 11 title, right? Like all the people who are really successful, Tom Hanks, right? When he learns his lines, like he follows the same process. So Tom Hanks doesn't care if he wins an Academy. It's not why he does it, right? So we just have to work on helping people realize that when they finally do, it's this like epiphany, right? It's like, what have I been doing all these years? But it's really hard. It's not easy.
Yeah, and it gets challenging as companies grow. The companies, as they grow, growth creates complexity, and complexity can often kill growth. And you point out in chapter 10, most leaders are accidental, and they're assigned leadership, and so leadership is really kind of a learned skill. And so I'm wondering from you, Steve, sales leaders especially that are trying to step out of the day to day, how can leaders introduce that simplicity into complexity through decisions or structure or anything else?
So this came up too maybe 2 weeks ago, when I said airlines don't promote the flight attendant to pilot. Like, that's not how it works, right? Oh, you've been so great with your role here at the company for 6 years. How about you just land the planes, right? They're completely different job titles and roles. And so in sales, the least trained person generally is the sales manager, right? They weren't apprenticed, right? They weren't taught. They didn't have training leading up to, right, this promotion, which, by the way, they think it's a promotion. Then after the salesperson takes the job, they think it's a prison sentence. And many of them want to go back to sales. So without training and coaching and supporting them on the role of sales leader or sales manager, they have no chance, right? And so great salespeople, many of them just want to sell, right? It's like in football. If anybody watches football, there's an offensive coordinator and a defensive coordinator, and many of them get promoted to head coach, and many of them fail miserably because they're good at the role of running a defense, not an entire team. So if you don't know if this person even has a shot, you are just relying on hope and guess and prayer, all the other things that will really backfire. And that's why we love sales DNA so much. You guys know what it is, but if you don't DNA test your people for the role you're considering putting them in or the role they're in now, how do we know if they're even in the right seat?
Yeah. And an offset of that is, you put people in leadership, maybe they're ill-equipped for it. And then they end up actually creating friction in the sales process, even when they think they're helping.
I just thought of this. I might use this now. Let's say, Eric, you're going to go in for a root canal, because we all love those. And the person at the front says, hey, Eric, we'd love you to come to our practice. 80% of our dentists have had no formal training on working on the human mouth. Would you go?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
80% of people in leadership roles, 80% have had zero formal leadership training. 80.
Yeah.
And we wonder why we have problems.
Right. Yeah. Right. And it's kind of a law, not even a law of averages. It's kind of a Pareto principle of why some are really great and that most aren't.
Yeah. We just have to get lucky that you find someone. Of course, I'll use a Boston reference. The one ever, right? Larry Bird, right? Hall of Fame player, Hall of Fame coach, Hall of Fame executive. Like there's just him. There's no one else. It's almost impossible to do that, right? Magic was Hall of Fame player, Hall of Fame businessman, not a Hall of Fame coach. It's just not his thing. So you've got to understand who you have and in what role. And another thing, and then we'll continue, we added a service we never had before, right? Which is sales manager training. So we have amazing teammate Sean, and all he does all day long is work with our clients, sales managers, one-on-one. Like that is what he does all day long. And the clients love it because they've never given a sales manager someone to coach and train and help and teach them. All the CEOs and executives, they're in Vistage or running on EOS or Pinnacle or whatever, right? Well, what about the sales manager? What do they get? Hey, why's the team suck? Oh, thanks. Very uplifting. So yeah, it's quite the epidemic.
What's the biggest realization coming out of that sales manager focused training?
So there's probably several, but to me, it's the will to manage. So we talked about before, and Eric, when we were in our time together with Frank, there's something in the salesperson DNA called the will to sell. And if a salesperson does not have the desire, the commitment to doing the things she doesn't like to do, thinking positively about her situations, right? Versus I hope they buy something. Okay, not that, right? Taking responsibility for their actions. All of those things make up something called the will to sell. In a sales manager, we have something called the will to manage. Like you have to want to lead others. If you are begrudgingly promoted because there's no one else, so why don't you do it, Eric? Okay, they don't want to be a sales manager. They don't like being a sales manager. They're not good at being a sales manager. We can see that before they make this mistake of getting promoted. So it's sales DNA, in my opinion, is even more helpful to prevent, right, disastrous hires or disastrous promotions. It's not a magic elixir to fix someone, right, who doesn't have the skills, mindset, or heart to do it.
Yeah. Tell us, for those that don't know, tell us more about sales DNA.
So sales DNA, an assessment, and many of y'all that are listening know you've probably taken an assessment before of some kind. There are about 2,500 different assessments that you can buy. And unfortunately, many of them are not predictively valid. And it's interesting because yesterday I had lunch with my friends, and for some reason, this restaurant here in San Diego had poutine, right? Do you guys know what poutine is?
Yeah.
So if you don't know, everybody, it's like the best food ever. It's basically a pile of fries, then with like 3 gallons of gravy, cheese curds, and then pulled pork. We could put whatever you want on it. It's like 73,000.
It's healthy. It's good for you.
So it's your meal for the next 6 weeks.
Yeah.
But I was in Quebec City a couple times, and that's where poutine is famous, right? In Quebec City in Canada. So every restaurant I would drive by or walk by had a sign out front that says Canada's best poutine. Okay. That's not predictive validity, right? That's not real data. 96% of assessments do that. The reason that I like Sales DNA is because it's one of the 4% who actually goes and talks to the clients that have used the assessments and says, is this person kicking butt? Is this person gone? Is this sales manager doing well? Are they doing poorly? And so it's predictive of future success in a role, not 100% predictive, roughly 72. So salespeople generally, when they get hired by a company, about 23% become top half performers within a year. When companies use Sales DNA in the hiring process, that number jumps to 72. So, I mean, it is triple, but it's still not 100, but it's better. So that's why we use it to help evaluate existing salespeople and sales managers, and then used in the hiring process before you ever talk to a prospect, they would take Sales DNA.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And shoot, I'll take 3x results.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect. Like, we get it wrong too, but I just get it wrong less.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's no shortage of sales tools and frameworks out there and methodologies. And from an executive standpoint, how should leaders decide what truly supports the business versus what adds noise, or does any of that stuff even really matter?
It doesn't matter. I was at Riviera on Saturday. So it's a PGA Tour tournament in LA. And it's pretty awesome to be that close to the players and just see them play. They're just playing. It's a totally different game. I am unfamiliar with and I'm marginally adequate at golf, but they're just on a different level. And so what I saw, and I followed a couple players and we sat it up a couple holes, me and some buddies. Let me ask you guys, how many of the players that I saw had the same swing?
Oh, none.
Oh, what a surprise.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, because
They do what
they've
works for them.
personalized.
Why not just make them all swing like Ben Hogan?
Yeah.
Like this is literally what companies think. And they go, we'll just teach them all this magic sales methodology. What? No, that doesn't work. You have to let people sell like them, right? That's the key. And that's why I'm so adamant about all my one size fits none stuff, because there is no magic way to sell. Like, you have to develop your style, your ability, your purpose, right? Your philosophy. Now, do we still have to follow processes? Yes, of course. Playbooks and all that stuff. Of course. I don't know if I had this, Eric, when you were there. Michael, have you seen the Greatest Night in Pop documentary?
I haven't seen that.
Have you seen it, Eric?
Yeah, but watched it after you talked about it during our Vista session.
So this is because Michael doesn't know. You remember "We Are the World," that song?
Yeah.
So that's what it's about.
Okay.
And so it's amazing. And how they put this together, it's incredible. But they had to get 47 of the world's greatest superstar singers in one studio in LA on January 28th, 1985. Literally had overnight to record it, 11 p.m. to 8 a.m. That's when it was recorded. So they got all these amazing people there, and Michael Jackson and Lionel Richie got commissioned to write the song. So Stevie Wonder was also supposed to be part of it, but he wouldn't return Lionel's phone calls. So they just did it themselves.
Yeah.
Well, they wrote the song, and when Quincy Jones was there, he was the producer. He put a sign on the front of the studio that said, "Leave your ego at the door." And a really cool, unique thing, and you guys know who are listening, the way the song goes, right? There are people that have their solo parts, right? Then the chorus, and then people have the solo part and the chorus. Well, what Quincy Jones did not do, right, is say, "Hey, Springsteen, I'm not sure that's going to really work for this song. That might work in New Jersey, but can you sing this like Steve Perry?" Okay, that didn't happen, right? And he didn't go to Bob Dylan and go, "Hey, Bob, enunciate. Like, are those words? What are you saying?" He didn't do that. And the coolest part, maybe, Eric, this is my favorite part of the documentary. Bob Dylan is having imposter syndrome. like many of us. And he can't even deliver a line because he's so intimidated by all these amazing people, right? And so Quincy Jones puts his arm around him, and it's probably the first and only time I have ever seen Bob Dylan smile, right?
Mm.
And he's just like, Bob, do your thing, bro. Like, you're amazing. You're incredible. Just be yourself. And he sort of loosens up, and then he delivers a great line in the song. That's sales, right? The lyrics to the song, like, they're still lyrics, right? They've got to be sung in a certain way. They're still lyrics. But how you sing the lyrics, like Quincy Jones didn't care. Cyndi Lauper did it her way, and Daryl Hall did it his way, and Paul Simon and Willie Nelson, and that's why the song's amazing. Not because he had them all sing in a methodology.
Right.
It
Yeah,
wouldn't have been the same.
when you talked about this, Steve, I recall, speaking of sales cultures that are effective and human, right? We
Yes.
don't want to deprogram someone's individuality. That's
Yes.
crucial.
Yes, the human aspect, and Eric might like this because he saw it. Do you remember a picture I put up of my favorite human being by any chance?
Oh,
Is
yeah.
that
Bob Ross.
Bob Ross? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was in Orlando last week for a bunch of Vistage talks, and I talk about him all the time because, again, he's the epitome of how you teach a system is what matters, right? Not the system, how you teach a system. So everybody's face lights up when I talk about Bob. So one of the members was like, hey, his studio is like an hour and a half away. I'm like, what? So literally the studio they certify Bob Ross certified painting instructors was an hour and a half away. So I drove there. So I canceled the meeting. It wasn't with you, luckily, but I canceled some meetings. I moved them because this is way more important. So I went there, met the new owners. There was a class going on, and there are all these original, Bob Ross paintings there you just will never see. And so I had some conversations with some of the people there. Bob's been gone for 30 years. Okay. And he still has an impact. So I asked where he was buried, right? His final resting place. I go, oh, it's in Orlando. I'm like, what? Where? They go, Woodlawn Cemetery. I'm like, going. So I went, and I didn't really post much of this on LinkedIn. I think I put one small post, but I went to the cemetery and asked where his plot was, and they sent me there. And it's just me and Bob. Just like, it was amazing. The most impactful guy in my life, practically. And he taught me so much about how we teach. And this is sales, and this is leadership. And this is what a woman said about Bob in one of these documentaries, just a stranger. And she said, Bob didn't teach to show you how good of a painter he was. He taught to show you how good of a painter you could be. That's the definition of leadership. We as leaders have a responsibility, right, to put people in their position to win. That's what sales is about, teaching people about how good they can be, not how much premium they write or how much software they sell. And that's what's missing. And the companies that do this, their salespeople are unrecruitable, right? There is no amount of money that will get them to leave an environment like that. And that's why I say a lot of times, great salespeople are easily recruitable because they're in environments they don't want to be in because they're just treated like a number. They're very rarely thanked, right? The top salesperson in companies is often the least recognized.
Why do you think that is?
Because they take them for granted. And they just think, oh, well, Michelle's just going to do another 18 million. And by the way, let's say Michelle does sell 18 million bucks worth of stuff. You know what she gets for a reward next year?
A higher quota.
A higher number.
A pay cut. Boy, it sounds awesome. Who would sign up for this? But companies think that salespeople like this or that it works. It's like we're in the bizarro world, right? It's like I was like, it's want to shake CEO sometimes, like McFly. Anybody home? Like, is anyone? You think that salespeople care about this stuff? Like, salespeople care about two things, and world-class salespeople care about four. Most salespeople care about themselves first and then their families together. And world-class salespeople care about those two, their company and their customers.
as owners, there is a lot of, sometimes they feel a lot of like revenue pressure and growth pressure, and so we're talking about kind of assumptions with sales and things of that nature. What's one assumption that leaders that feel that, what's one assumption they just need to reconsider and get rid of in that situation?
So let's say you've got a leader who's getting pressure from a board, right? Because they're all outcome based. Don't even realize if they eliminated that, they'd get better outcomes. Okay. These again are the guys and gals who are on the first tee and go, I'm going to hit this thing 350 right down the middle. Oh, yeah, it ain't going 350. So when they put pressure down, again, where do you think that pressure goes? Well, right to the sales team. So if a leader gets pressured, they're going to pressure the sales team. It's very much like, unfortunately, in human behavior, people grow up abused, they tend to abuse. So why do some not? Like, not everyone who was abused abuses their kids or spouses. What's different about them, right? So you have to realize, even though something happened to you or is happening to you, does not mean you have to foist that onto somebody else. So the leaders almost have to be like a filter, right? They get pressure up here, but what comes out here better not be pressure, right? Like a desalinization, right? You got to take the salt out. So how you do it, again, are all the things we talked about. Investing in people, getting them coaching, mentorship, support, not only talking to them when they do something bad, right? Recognizing your top performers a lot. Those are the things that will get the numbers you're getting pressured to achieve. So they've got to realize that they have to translate that somehow.
Yeah, and there's a lot that senior leaders are expected to do and expected, when it comes to sales and sales management.
Yeah.
You've seen a lot of this. So
Yes.
thinking about those expectations that kind of get foisted on these senior leaders, if you could give that audience permission to just stop doing that
Yeah.
thing that's expected of them, what would you advise them to stop doing and why?
In that same section of Florida Vistage stuff, and Michael knows and Eric has heard my talk. When I talk about DPI so much and daily performance indicators, how they are way more important, right, than KPIs. And one of these guys, we had this conversation about goals, and Michael knows and Eric probably knows how stupid I think goals are. But this guy, like, he couldn't even comprehend life without a goal. We have to have a revenue goal, or else how do we know? And he can't even fathom that you don't. Like, that crap didn't exist 1,000 years ago. Like, the merchants in the street in Athens didn't go, you know what the goal is today, everybody? 42 wicker baskets.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. That's like an industrialized BS. So there are companies, and I know some of y'all are listening to this, can't even fathom this. There are companies without revenue goals. I'm just letting you know, because we have some of them as clients. If you want to read a great book, read The Infinite Game, okay, by Simon Sinek. It's not really necessarily his idea, but the idea of, if we're going to be in business, how about we just like take care of the customers and do awesome stuff for them? And then guess what? They'll tell people, and then more people will buy stuff from us. Then we just add it up at the end of the year, and then that's what it is. They can't. It's like a drug. It's like they're addicted, right, to metrics. And so when it's been perpetuated for the last 200 years, it's not exactly easy to release that. But that's why they do it, because they've been told to do it. It's almost the abuse thing. They've been brought up with, I need metrics and KPIs, and we got to get forecasting and all this stuff. Like, forecasting? Like, really? Last week, it was supposed to rain all week in San Diego. It rained for, 12 minutes. I wish I was a weather forecaster.
Yeah. Right.
I'd love to get paid $400,000 to be wrong all the time.
Right.
As if there is some science behind forecast. Like, it's an oxymoron. Sales forecast, right? Jumbo shrimp, right? Intelligent Yankee fan, right? They just don't match. So they spend more time with forecasts and business plans and all this crap than they do role playing with their people who will, make that number higher. Like, spend the time and the money on the thing that drives the revenue.
Mm-hmm.
Arbitrarily making up some metric driven equation and from some spreadsheet jockey, okay, who's never made a call in their life. Like, do the things today that matter, right? But just so rare they can't even see it.
Yeah. Well, you kind of mentioned this a little bit. I want to dig in on this as we move forward. But we talked about the thing to stop doing. What should they invest in for long-term sales-driven growth? What's the one thing they should invest in?
If I had to pick one thing, right, it would be build a custom playbook for your salespeople and role play the crap out of it.
Yeah.
If it were only one thing, nothing else, give me 2 teams of salespeople, and one has a playbook and role plays all the time, and one has goals and quotas.
Yeah.
I'm picking the first one.
Yeah.
Right. But they don't do it. So that'd be my number one thing.
Steve, as we're drawing close to our time here, one of the things we like to do on the podcast is ask our guests to share a meaningful quote or a piece of advice that's had an impact on you personally and how you show up as a leader. So I'd love to just pass the mic to you one more time
Sure.
to give you an opportunity to share there.
So that's an easy one. It's attributed to Marcus Aurelius, but we can't really be sure, but it's from Stoic philosophy. The only way to truly be happy is to be free from any outcomes.
Amazing. Steve, this has been really helpful. I love the way you challenge sales leaders, obviously in the Vistage presentation, so much gold coming out of that. Encourage everyone to go out, pick up a copy of the book, reach out. How could someone find you on the internet, Steve, if they were interested in learning more about these resources?
LinkedIn's probably the easiest way, right? Steve Heroux, Heroux, and then our company, thesalescollective.com. Those are probably the 2 easiest ways. And one last thing for everybody, I want to make sure I get to share this as my number one reason why I do what I do is helping our heroes. And I may have only shared this a little bit with you and Michael, but I have a nonprofit called the Million Veteran Mission, and I'm going to teach 1 million veterans how to sell. So they get access to all my contrarian selling content that I built for free for life. And it's pretty awesome. I have an active Navy SEAL, right, who's going through training, and he is so thankful and grateful. And it's so humbling for me because he's 7 months from transitioning and wants to go into sales. And a buddy who's already in training with me told him about it. So if anybody's listening, would love to help our heroes in any way, themillionveteranmission.org. It's really simple. It talks about all the things they get. And so as many of these amazing people we can help, 200,000 transition, right, from the military every year. And many of them don't know what they want to do. So I'd love any connections, contacts, right, introductions would be amazing.
Absolutely. And for our listeners, we'll put all of this information in the show notes. Anna always does a wonderful job of gathering up the resources. So we'll make it easy on you. If you hit fastlowmotion.com/podcast, you can see all of those notes as well as transcripts and past episodes. So we encourage everybody to go check it out and would love, we have these episodes. We produce this podcast every couple of weeks. Anyone that's listening out there, if you have a question or topic you want us to dig into, just drop us a note at fastlowmotion.com/podcast feedback. Steve, thanks again. MJ, appreciate you. We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, Eric. And now I know MJ apparently did a good job. Thanks, guys. Thanks everybody for listening.
Yeah. Thank you.